Good evening, friends. It's Tuesday, January 19th, and time finally for the reflection of the day. As I was ending my sabbatical back in September 2019, I realized that while it has been a wonderful experience to be your pastor, I was able to see the ending of this long and fruitful, wonderful relationship. I have been blessed to be your partner in mission and ministry here for almost 16 years now. When I look back to March of 2005, that first interview with the steering team, and the call that came a day later asking if I would consider being the interim pastor here, I knew then that the answer really was a no-brainer. I had some of the story of ministry here, thanks to my Inside the Synod source. Shepherd of the Hills, I was told, was doing great stuff. I also was told that in no uncertain terms that they had one of the best music and worship directors on the planet. I heard he was a great musician, a dependable rock, and a good partner in worship. All of those statements were true and still are true today. And then as I announced in February last year that I would retire in June of this year and join the class of 2021, including Antonio Velazquez and Faith Miller, in a journey into the next chapter of my life, I also made a commitment to myself that I would not retire in place and just tread water for those 15 months. I wanted to work with the then current and future Synod bishop on a new concept for us. I had the goal of our steering team and call team doing much of the preliminary work before the interim process really began, so that the time between pastors would be shortened. Well, 2020 had different vision from mine. No Synod assembly, no bishop election, no opportunity for us to become a model of a new method of calling another pastor when the current pastor was retiring. And I also believe that I lost some interest and some traction when we entered our deployed steering team status a little over a month after my announcement. Another goal that I had and am fulfilling now was to share stories of our life together and some of the saints who have impacted my life and ministry. So when you read the February Horn next month, you will see how 5 saints here touched me and all of us. Today I want to share with you a saint of my own life, Roger Goebel. He was one of my seminary professors. Now, I don't remember what class I would have taken from him, but I do remember conversations we held during my 3 years on the Gettysburg campus. My seminary had a tradition of weekly coffee fellowship gatherings. Each Tuesday, we had a mid-morning open block of time. It was a chance for students and profs to sit and talk with each other. Almost every prof that I know put away their professorship and sat with us to share stories and life experiences. It was early in my first year that I sat with a group of friends and Dr. Goebel. It was the beginning of a wonderful time of mentorship and friendship. Dr. G was interested in what we and I were doing outside of class and study. On one of those Tuesdays, he and I continued our conversation after the rest had left. Apparently, I didn't have a class, and neither did he. He asked if I worked at the Fairfield Inn, which was a local restaurant. And when I said yes, he told me he thought he had seen me when he and his wife had been there for dinner. The next time they came in, he asked the manager, could they be seated in my area? I remember them being wonderful guests, diners, and as far as my pocket was concerned, very good tippers. He was also there for me when I returned to campus to begin my second year. I had failed a class the previous semester and was now summoned to the dean's office. The dean lectured me about my failure and told me that the penalty was that I could not have any outside work. And I got angry. I've needed that work for Joan and I to pay our bills. And as I walked out of the dean's office, probably with a scowl on and being really upset, I noticed that A. Roger was in his office. He summoned me in with his two-finger pull, if you will, and he asked me what was wrong. I told him, and I remember trying to maintain composure. He then reminded me that all was not lost. Really? I said with my sarcasm. Yes, you're still here. You'll have to make up the class, but you're still here on a path for ordination. And then, almost as if reading my mind, he said, oh, and by the way, if I were you, I'd keep working at the inn. You know he never goes out to eat, and your secret is safe with me. In addition, that second year, he also called me regularly to come and work at his property, small farm, if you will. Whenever the fences needed mending, the larger garden needed tractor work, or many of the other thousands of odd jobs I think he found just for me. And of course, he paid better than minimum wage, and there was always food involved. But it was during a later coffee fellowship that he offered the most profound thought to me and to those at the table. I can't recall what our conversation was about as it started, but the pearl from him was that if we were not paying attention to the world around us, then we were the most pathetic excuse for a pastor. My interim pastor, Frank Kirchner, said basically the same thing during the year that I spent with him serving. So A. Roger explained it. As I recall, he said something like, pay attention to the little details around you. Listen intently to the people as they share their story. Observe people, both members of your congregation and others. See what they're doing. It is the actions that will speak louder than the words. So what are your folks doing? How do they interact at the grocery store? And then looking straight at me, he said, or at the restaurants? What do you see as people talk to each other? Don't just hear the words, observe the body language as well. I do think of Dr. Goebel frequently these days. It was his mentorship that formed me and still informs me as I work on these reflections during our time of deployment. I believe he made me a better pastor, even though I don't think I took a single class from him to learn academically. I look forward to seeing you back again on Sunday. And please, until we gather next, remember, wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, love one another, wear your mask, keep that social distance of 6 feet from one another, wear your mask, wash your hands. Oh, have I said that before? Yeah, you know I have. And of course, as Sergeant Esterhaus dismisses us for our daily routine of ministry, please be careful out there.